If it, what's that?
That sounds great.
Well, if it passes, that's what we get.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, then it goes back to what it was before. We just keep the money.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 5 o'clock on Monday, October the 7th, and this is the regular school board meeting of Independent School District number 882, Monticello. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to note for members present this evening, Student Representative Willis Sharmer is absent. And so we need to approve our tentative agenda as permanent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Melissa Curtis, seconded by Casey Root. All in favor of approving our agenda as stated, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Motion passes 6-0. We have no citizens' comments this evening. Moving on to item number 5, fiscal stability. We have a consent agenda that consists of our approval of minutes from September 23rd and our personnel matters. And members receive those in advance, have the opportunity to ask questions as necessary, and then we move those as a unit. So are there any discussion about the consent agenda items from the board? Finding no discussion, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Melissa Curtis, seconded by Casey Root. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda items as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, please say no. And the motion passes 6-0. Moving on to collaborative connections. As every meeting, we are very blessed to have donations from the community and supportive members, and this meeting is one of the ones where we have some additional donations, and Superintendent Olson is going to discuss those.
All right, we have 2 donations to bring forward to the board here tonight. Northwest Area JCs for $1,500 going to designated purposes, the girls tennis program. And then our American Legion Auxiliary Unit 260 brings us donated flags every year, and we just love this. It's an amazing partnership. Valued at $1,500, and these are to be displayed at all the schools in honor of the veterans who gave their all for our country. And so do we have, are you Christine? No, so sometimes the president will come, but I don't see her tonight. So yeah, those are the 2 donations I'd like to bring forward here tonight.
And we have a resolution.
Therefore be it resolved by the Monticello School Board number 882 to gratefully accept the following donations from the Northwest Area JCs of $1,500 to the girls tennis team and the American Legion Auxiliary Unit number 260 with the donation of flags valued at $1,500 to be displayed at all schools in our honor of veterans who gave their all for our country.
Second.
Resolution read by member Jeff Hegle, seconded by Melissa Curtis. All those in favor of accepting the donations as presented, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. And the motion passes 6-0. And this evening, we have 2 of our 3 student representatives with us. Next agenda item, we have Cohen Schlangen and Aloysius, or A.T. Thompson, that are going to give their student report, and they have some very important introductions for us as well this evening. We're very excited to have some new folks here. Welcome to the podium.
All right, good evening, everyone. Starting off our agenda, we have the adaptive Coyotes. The Coyotes have started their season 4 this year, playing very offensively and defensively. Cohen and I interviewed first-year head coach Mr. Craig Grams about the start of the season. And as far as the makeup of the team goes, Monticello has 9 kids, STMA has 13 kids, and Buffalo has 1. In the last 2 games, each of the 23 players on the roster got in. Mr. Grams also said that for players who didn't get to play as much, or for players who didn't play at all, there is a 10-minute JV game before every varsity game, which is played. This season, the top leading scorers for the Coyotes include 8th grader Isaiah Kushel with 16 goals, 8th grader Jacob Senko with 16 goals, and 5 others with at least 1 goal. The Coyotes are all about sharing the ball, averaging 7 assists per game, with the top scorers also being a huge part of sharing. When asked about the overall values and dynamic of the team, Mr. Grams emphasized the importance of having fun, playing hard, and cheering for the team, win or lose. The Coyotes' next home game is Wednesday, the 9th, at the middle school pit at 4:30 against St. Cloud Apollo, who is also undefeated. When asked about the rest of the season, Mr. Graham smiled and said, "One game at a time."
All right, next up, as many of you know, we had our football game last Friday at the Vikings practice facility, TCO. As a whole, Friday night's game at TCO was a success. As a member of the team, I would put this high up on my list of experiences as a football player. It was just great to be there. I mean, great to, experience it. Part that I liked is the field wasn't too big to where it felt empty, and the overall Friday Night Lights vibe was still very much there. We were able to leave school early for a few different things, such as a group picture with Park Center, a team meal at Park Center, and even a tour of the Vikings Museum, which was one of my favorite parts of the experience. I talked to many of my friends on the team about their thoughts on the game and atmosphere, and one said it's a once-in-a-lifetime deal, and I couldn't agree more. This sums up the experience. Many of us will never be able to do it again. I mean, it's very special that we got to do that. As far as the fans were concerned, the atmosphere was electric with the pep band and what looked to be a full student section in attendance. My friends had very good things to say about the game, but most just included how awesome it was to be in the stands at a stadium like that. It felt like a home game, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to go. All right, next up on our agenda, we have our foreign exchange students. So if I could have foreign exchange students stand up. We'll stand over there. All right. First up, we have Ruben Lago. Ruben, please raise your hand. Ruben is a junior from Madrid, Spain. He enjoys basketball and soccer, and his first impression of MHS is that it's not bad, it's not good, but it's different.
Next up, we have Charlene. Sorry if I mispronounced your name wrong. Please showcase yourself. Just wave. Charlene is a junior, and she's from France, primarily close to the Switzerland border. She enjoys playing soccer and is currently part of the girls' soccer team. An initial impression she had of Monticello High School was that the school was much larger. Something that was different, she mentioned, was how homecoming dance was similar to a prom, stating in France they only had one. Being similar. Yeah. Oh, my bad. Next up, we have, I'm so sorry, Elena Menendez. Elena is from Madrid, Spain, and is currently a junior. She enjoys playing tennis, dancing, and horse riding. Her favorite class is interior design, and her initial impression of the school was that the grading skill was different.
Next up, Lucia Osuna. Please raise your hand. Lucia enjoys dancing. Her favorite class is human biology. She's also a junior from Madrid, Spain, and her first impression of MHS is that it's fun and it has better pathways for studying what you want to be in life due to the flexibility of making your own schedule. Next up, we have Andre Victori. Andre is from Italy, a little north of Milan. He is a junior, and he enjoys snowboarding and basketball. And his first impression of MHS is that it's different. He likes the change, but the food isn't very good.
And lastly, we have Bastian Milther. Bastian is a junior from Denmark, and he enjoys playing soccer. Something that was initially different for him was how the school systems were different in terms of sports being played right after school. A food he enjoys is Raising Cane's, and as of right now, he doesn't have any favorite class, and they're all okay.
Are the students here for a whole year or one semester? Do you change host families or anything
Change family like each trimester.
each trimester?
Everybody from Spain know each other? You just met each other when you got here?
Talk about the grading scale. I heard you say that was a little different.
Not the grading scale, but the schedule. In Spain, we don't get to choose our subjects.
Okay.
We just get to choose kind of the path we want to go in. Like if you want to study something related to science, so you go with science. But you can choose all your subjects.
Awesome.
Have you done anything fun yet?
I'm on the performance team.
Yeah.
I get to perform like the football games, and yeah, that's been really fun.
And does everybody have winter gear? Winter clothing, boots and jackets.
It's going to get cold.
Anybody else have any comments? Welcome. I hope
Welcome.
hope you have a wonderful season here. This is a very warm community, very friendly people. So just if you need anything, let folks know. And we hope to hear from you in the spring. We usually invite our international students back to kind of give us a recap on how your year went and the highlights and that sort of thing. So keep that in mind and jump right in and be in all the activities you have time for, because it makes for a wonderful year experience for you. Anybody else? Thank you so much for coming this evening, too. You can sit down now. Actually, you can leave if you really want to. Three from mid. Wow, that's really cool. Yeah, they probably don't think our really is good. With apologies to Laura Wacker-Hansen. So moving on our agenda to teaching and learning, we've been hearing from all of our building principals over the last couple of meetings about their goals for the year. And we have this evening Jeff Scherber, Monticello Middle School Principal, and Rachel Sandquist, Middle School Assistant Principal, here to give us their briefing on the middle school goals. Welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Board Chair Ziebarth and School Board and Mr. Olson. It was in July when we were here last. We shared our progress on our multi-year goals for instructional areas of math and reading, and then we gave you a snapshot of our vision of a learner. We'll give an update for you on where we're at and our goals for this upcoming school year, that multi-year goal. Rachel will go over those specifics. We'll talk a little bit about those measurable things that you'll see from students and as well from staff. Some things that if you visit staff, they'll tell you this is what's different this year. And then if you visit with students, they would do the same. And then after that, we'll talk a little bit about our update on a vision of a learner. And then we'll open it up for questions. Rachel.
All right, so just kind of aligning with the district goals of wanting to hit that 70% goal in proficiency reading or grade level by this spring. We have built off our goal from last year, where we're continuing that 2% increase in FastBridge A reading and A math from the spring of 2024, which was last spring, into the spring of 2025. And so that is aligned with our district's proficiency in reading goal as well. We also set that math goal to be consistent among both the FastBridge reading and math.
The three bullets on the bottom of the screen, the collective efficacy, MTSS, and the observable impact, are three key components of every meeting that we have at the middle school. We had a meeting this morning, and that's how we started our meeting, with those three focus areas. And the difference you would notice from last year's focus areas is that we're working hard to embed those the instructional framework that we've worked on in the last couple of years, as well as what we know about the science of reading and embedding that into everything we do at the middle school. Some of the staff observables, so if you visit with the middle school staff, some things that they would share with you is that we're asking them to embed those key areas of literature on reading, writing, speaking, and listening in their content areas. So every lesson should involve those key components. That's what we know about the science of reading, that students should be doing that during every lesson. We're asking everybody to be on the same page and see themselves as part of this endeavor, and they should be able to articulate that clearly, what that looks like. In July, we shared this slide with you, just to drill down on some of the specifics. There's a lot of verbiage up there, but we met with those teachers on the top there, those instructional leadership team members this morning, and we talked specifically about each department, each area, and how they're embedding the strategies that we know about the science of reading in their lessons. And we also asked them to give an update on the challenges that they have in their department area in doing so. We'll share a little bit more about the last tier there, about our new 6th grade course and some of the things that we're doing differently as well.
And then as far as what we can see from our students as they move through this year, and if we're hitting that goal, is that they would show growth from their current FastBridge reading level. We do our FAST assessments 3 times a year. We're just finishing up our fall round. And so we're working on breaking down those scores with our ILT team that met this morning. And we will kind of evaluate student data, both at a group level and at an individual level, to make sure that they are showing that progress as a result of the increase in our data-driven instruction, which is what Jeff was just mentioning with the work that we're doing in our cohorts.
These student observables are things that if you approached any middle school student, they might share that this year's a little different. Our 6th graders are experiencing a new course. If you recall, we're doubling down on that content area literacy. And instead of having a separate reading and a language arts class in 6th grade, Ryan Nett and Kristen Zalick are teaching a separate class using those components of the science of reading and embedding those. And for example, this first year, they just focused, the first couple weeks here, we focused simply on writing, that writing component, and being consistent across all grade levels or across all content areas. Then they'll be inviting the science team in and asking them to use some of their content area literature as a foundation for building literacy strategies. And Rachel will share a little bit about that.
Yep, so our science department has been working on claim evidence and reasoning, really just working on the writing component of being able to articulate what it is they're learning about. If you can write it and if you can speak it and you can write it, you can really understand it. And so partnering with the language arts, the literacy communications group in 6th grade, and then our STEM teachers want to partner for their technical writing unit on how to really be able to write well and do the same claim evidence reasoning as our STEM folks do, or our science folks do. So just some real partnerships across content areas too that you'll be able to see as well.
Another thing your typical middle school student might share is math looks a little different this year. Math can be a very traditional lesson plan where you come in, you get some instruction, a bit of lecture, you work together in groups, and then independently. We're flipping it with the help of Cindy Foshing and some new research that we're looking at called Building Thinking Classrooms. Within minutes after a child is in the math classroom, they're up off their seat. That's the first thing we're trying to get them to do, is to work collaboratively at a whiteboard and articulate their thinking out loud in a metacognitive approach. They can demonstrate what's on their mind and how they can attack a problem. They're doing that in groups. They're doing that in random groups. And it's a lot different than in the past. Teachers share that it's fairly exhausting. The students share that it's very different. The pace, they seem to be covering more material. And in visiting and being in the meeting with the math groups, they had shared it's a very different approach for both students and staff.
And so those are just some examples of things you might see if you walk into the building. But we, as we work through our cohorts and ask our teachers to really lean into the expectations of our, focus on the instructional framework and the science of reading, you will see every single student reading, writing, speaking, and listening in any classroom. So really focusing on that. And then just a quick touch on our vision of a learner goal. We will continue to focus on our students being effective communicators, both academically and socially, and just learning to communicate and collaborate with purpose and intent through those writing, listening, and speaking skills. So that will continue to be a focus area for us as middle schoolers grow in our building.
And lastly, we'll again have our focus on our attendance. To do all that work, we need the students here. Like I had mentioned on the 15th of July, that Cindy had challenged us to put that goal out there, and we achieved it by May. It took some time, but we got there, and we would have a similar goal to have 90% of the students here 90% of the time. And again, that'll be a goal for this upcoming school year as well. I guess we'll open it up for questions.
I have a question. So when we talk about moving into the higher grades out of the elementary school grades, I think we as board members understand that elementary school students need a different type of one-to-one or small group reading instruction when they're struggling or trying to gain more skills. Can you kind of take us through, like with a 7th or 8th grader that's changing classes every hour or so, how is that accomplished for a student that's struggling with either reading or math? How do you attack that problem?
Well, one of those first goals that we had up on the screen was collective efficacy. And we try to minimize what we call that code switch, where students go from class to class and have a different set of expectations, maybe different languages and strategies that are used by different teachers. We try to do a better job of being on the same page so they don't experience that. And then we try hard to have the students try to measure their progress towards that in every class as well. And that's on the staff, that's on the teachers to try to minimize that code switch that you might typically see a whole lot less of that when you're in 1 or 2 classrooms in the elementary and 5 or 6 classes at the middle school. I hope that helps.
Talk a little bit about Tier 2.
Joy.
Yeah.
About Joy.
Oh, yeah. So, yes, Joy Hausman is our reading specialist at the middle school. We've worked the last couple of years changing our model where we would pull kids out during some instructional time in big groups in classes of about 55 minutes. We've learned that if we trim that down to about a 20-minute session, have the kids drive their own instruction and focus it on the areas, combine the groups of kids that are struggling in some similar areas, that we've found more progress in that model than in the past.
And the way that Joy does that is she is our FastBridge data guru. And so she breaks down all of the FastBridge data and sees what kids' needs are, and then forms groups based on that data and is really intentional about what classes she pulls from and how often, so that they're getting that really specific intervention time, but not so much that they're out of class for so long and missing content for a long time too. So she's very intentional about her time planning, very intentional about using that data to identify the students that are at that Tier 2 level.
That goes into my question. So 6th grade, you said you found success with like Masalic, combining it and having them just in the one class so that they weren't missing any classes. Do you see that being able to pour into 7th and 8th grade so they don't even miss that 20 minutes if it can?
We lost 19 minutes of our school day with just some of the tweaks in schedules this year, so it's getting harder. We try not to pull them out of the same class, but whatever we do, it's in conjunction with their language arts class. So it gets harder to do in 7th and 8th grade because of that. We also have a specialist in STEM, art, and FACS, and health class at 7th and 8th grade as well.
Is there a program then to make sure that the kids don't fall behind in those other classes then when they're pulled out?
That's part of Joy's experience, is to work in conjunction with those teachers so they can not miss out as much as to minimize what they miss out on and to help them close the gap. And the teachers are pretty good about trying to work with Joy as students are in and out of classes so they can make sure they don't miss out on.
Because it would be the same class, right, that they would miss out on?
No, not at the middle school. We try to, not necessarily. We'll move it around a bit. So Joy works, she's in the team meetings, so she'll go in and switch things up and work with the teams to try to pull from different times, so it's not always from the same class.
I had a follow-up also. How are you sharing this plan with parents? So at the elementary school level, I think there's just a lot more communication with the teacher because they only have one teacher most of the time. So how is the middle school communicating these different tiers of support and interventions with the families? What's the plan for that?
We did have two separate parent involvement meetings. We talked about that, and we posed that question of what do you see differently at the middle school since the start of the school year. That's probably our best avenue to get that information out there. We haven't pushed out a lot of, we have conferences this November as well, and we'll be posing that question too to see if the families notice a difference in delivery model.
And I would also say district-wide, every building has been working on a family engagement model. So to not only look at the things that they have been doing, but to look at how do you build structures so that that the families are more engaged in some of the academic pieces. So that's been work that we've been working on for 6 months, and we'll continue to work on that throughout the course of the school year.
And so for like the kids that are being taken for 20 minutes out of the language arts and reading, are the parents aware that they're in that program?
Yeah, they have to be, because they work mutually on some goals, and when they measure their progress, Joy updates them and lets them know how they're doing. So they're on board from the start, the minute they are out of that core class.
Okay.
And then Joy is progress monitoring almost every time, and like kids will like graduate out of her program, which is really exciting. I think just a point of clarification, they're not getting pulled from their English classes in order to do the intervention. So they still get a full 53-minute English period in 7th and 8th grade or 6th grade, and then it's out of a different content area. So they're not missing that core content time with their peers. That's a good.
It was only at the 6th grade level that you combined the literacy and the English, not at the 7th and 8th grade level.
Yeah, it's the 6th grade last year, if you looked at a student schedule, they would both have reading and language arts.
There you go, yeah.
When that opened up, we plugged this in there instead.
Any other questions or discussion from the board?
Attendance, is that just communicating with families about something that you're putting an emphasis on, or communication with the students, or how are you doing that?
Well, we rolled it out last fall as a building goal in our newsletter, and then we communicated that every newsletter with a graphic, and hopefully that helps share that message. And then teachers, it's on them to do what they can to make the most engaging lessons possible, so get kids in part of the lessons and wanting them here every day.
And Nicole DeGrave is kind of our counselor who keeps track of our attendance and does a really good job connecting with families, making every effort to identify and reach out to those families who are struggling to get their child here for whatever myriad of reasons. No judgment, just how can we help? So she does, I just wanted to give her a shout out. She works very hard to keep that updated and so that no kid slips through the cracks.
Any other discussion or questions from the board? Well, thank you so much for coming and giving us that briefing tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We look forward to hearing in the spring. And moving on now, we're going to hear from our co-principals, Lori Hansen and Matt Colwell from the Monticello High School, that are going to present their high school goals presentation. Oh, and Dave Reeves. Sorry, you weren't on the agenda.
Yeah, all three of us. We appreciate
He's
the
welcome.
time.
He can still be
You're
up.
more than welcome.
Appreciate the time to get in front of you here a little bit, just give you an update with where we're at and what we're be working on and prioritizing. Excuse me. Just looking at that picture, it's a good reminder of our end game, right? And that's a district end game. That's not a high school day necessarily. It does happen at the high school, but we know that is something that all schools are working towards. Jeff and Rachel just gave great examples of the work they're doing at the middle school to get kids to that stage and to be prepared for their next steps. So just that recognition and awareness to the significance of that day. Cohen and AT know it, it's coming, and our job is to get them ready for what's coming next in their lives once they cross that stage. So I wanted to kind of lead with that. Just thinking about instruction as the primary, kind of the meat and potatoes to what we do and why we do what we do at school. It's on us as educators to make sure kids are ready. And as just mentioned, you can see the bottom bullet there, graduation and the number of students graduating, the rate at which we graduate students is our primary goal. That's a 10,000 foot level goal. where we want that number to be well into the 90 percentile, and that is, we've been in the 91% when you take all of our learners in the 12th grade, Right Tech, ALC, ALP, and the high school, and combine them all together. We were at 91% last year, and our goal is 94. We want to bump that up and get them there, but it requires the adults, the learners, the educators to focus on what they can control and keep getting better in what they do a little bit every day. So our professional development, our instruction, and the focus on that is really what we're doing to get to that graduation rate and improve graduation rate. A couple years ago, we had a system at the high school where we had flex every other day, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and it was during that time when staff were being pulled out, just small numbers. I think there were 8 or 16 at a time being pulled out to do their professional development. Now with the new schedule we have, with that old schedule, it was about 2 times a month that staff would get PD. With our new schedule now, we can get all of our staff in the same room every Wednesday morning, so essentially 4 times a month. When we talk about collective efficacy, collaborating and meeting together, Eric's been to one of those meetings. It's been going really well. We're only a month into it, but we have started looking at data. We've been looking at instructional practices. We've been looking at mindfulness. So we'll talk more about that, but we feel like the system we have now really benefits us in the sense that they are fresh. It's 7:20 to 8 every Wednesday morning, and they are on point, and they've been doing very well. So we are excited about where that'll go, and we have a real purpose to it and some planning that's being put into it with some extra professionals helping kind of the research behind it as well.
I think you're going to hear a lot of similarities to what Rachel and Jeff talked about, because as we look at the second slide here and we talk about Tier 1 and Tier 2, it's using that MTSS framework to really meet the needs of all of our learners to get to that graduation goal. So when we talk about Tier 1 best practices, we're really talking about our lesson design and our instructional practices that hit 80% of our learners that sit in front of us. So that's just kind of that broad sweeping. So when Matt talks about the data, we are using data to really look at what are the strategies that we're doing that impact attendance, that impact learning, that impact all of the things that go into our 9th through 12th grade learners. When we talk about Tier 2, we're using the same set of data, but we're really looking at that through a filtered lens that says, what are the things that we need to implement systematically that the 80% are missing or didn't get, that we can build in the foundational blocks under that academics, attendance, behavior, emotional, all of the things that go into who our learners are, and how do we build in systematic interventions to backfill those supports so that kids can come out and be successful to hit that graduation rate.
Yeah, Matt spoke to just the new schedule being conducive to our staff development in the mornings, and with our ALP on site now at the high school, that really helps our ALP and online teachers also be able to engage alongside everyone else and just get embedded with PD that's focused on those Tier 1 best practices. Our ALP staff is also implementing Tier 2 interventions, academic interventions in the form of credit recovery. So summer school is a primary way by which kids regain credit and get credit recovery, but we also have courses that are scheduled throughout the day that our ALP staff are teaching, and it's a way for kids to regain credit during the school year. And then lastly, just from the ALP perspective as well, ALP teachers right now, a main focus as we kind of hit the ground in the new building is just what are the best practices for Tier 3 alternative programming, and there's 5 focus areas that we have, and it's just the challenge and the joy of putting that on the ground for kids as we start the year.
So as we think about specifically what does that look like, as Matt has talked about, our September goal for our staff development was attendance. So we took last May's attendance data and really just put that in front of our staff in the first round. And then weeks 2, 3, and 4, we looked at technology, instructional practices, and mindfulness to say, what are the things that we can control within our classroom, within our system, and what can we do to therefore meet the needs of attendance? Because again, to the middle school, we want 90% of our kids there 90% of the time. And so how are we doing that? Supporting it, backfilling it, and celebrating it as well. And so then additionally, we look at its data analysis through attendance, FastBridge, our student screener. Mr. Olson referenced our family engagement. As we're doing all of these things, as we're building the systems, as we're building the structures, how are we communicating that with our families? Because We want it to be a two-way partnership. They have to know what we're doing, but also we have to work together to support all of our learners. It goes into things that are ongoing. We've been in front of you a number of times to say, what's our programming like? What is our career and college readiness? Are our classes relevant and real life? And how are we making them germane to not only what they're doing here, but that experiential learning? Collaboration is key. We start our second round of PD tomorrow, and we're going to look at the results of our student screener to say attendance and student screener. What are those two data points now telling us, and what are we going to sit in front and look at the next month to say, okay, here's our data points, but now how do we impact the things that we can control instructionally? What do we look at with our strategies that our kids are telling us? And we've got to look at data a different way to really make sure that we're supporting our learners. And then our student center team takes that and they take it to a higher level and say, okay, teachers are getting 80%. Now what do we need to do for the students that we are still kind of missing the boat on? So I think that's what our Wednesday time looks like together. Some specific things that go into our homeroom.
Yeah, so you spoke about how Student Center deals with maybe more of a Tier 2 thing. Our Student Center is also doing a nice job of leaning into the Tier 1 stuff in terms of bringing awareness to every kid in the building. So homeroom is something that our kids are at once a month with a homeroom instructor, but during that time, we're trying to be intentional about making that a platform for family engagement, for a student advisory role, and also SEL curriculum. But our Student Center specifically, they're really taking advantage of the opportunity and once a month just informing kids about the resources that are available in the building. So who is your counselor, and just introducing the personnel that is in that building, and then how can you lean to your counselor for support with college and career readiness and a variety of other supports, social workers, our high school register, transcript help as kids prepare for colleges and the next step. So it's been cool to see all our kids getting increased exposure, and they'll continue throughout the year within that once a month platform of just being, again, continually exposed to what that office does, who's there, and what they do.
And then with regard to students, as far as what you'll see, just like David's alluding to, a lot of conversation around what opportunities are out there for students and what pathways are available. We spend a lot of time, it goes back to middle school again, exposing them and talking about the career inventory and the different pathways, the opportunities that are out there beyond high school, and making sure they understand their strengths, their weaknesses, what they trend towards, what they like, what opportunities are there, and then providing classes and opportunities at the high school that they're interested in, real life opportunities that get them certifications or give them exposure to things that are beyond the core content. So we're really pushing hard to make them aware to those things. One of the silver linings to switching the schedule, going from tries to, or semesters to tries, and switching the timing, from 7 to 6 periods. Kids are just much more in tune with their credits and what they need to be than they typically were prior, or the routine was very familiar and just going through a 7-period day of 2 semesters. They know now within that 6-period day, 3 tries, where they got to get to. We've talked to a number of students already who are applying to colleges, and that traction is exciting to see as they not only dialed into their counselors and what careers are out there, but kind of taking the bull by the horns and knowing where they want to go individually. Vision of a learner?
Yeah. Developing the vision of a learner's skills, and they're listed there. I remember Jim Johnson saying to teachers, you don't teach content, you teach students. And I think our teachers just get that so well. And so much of those vision of a learner skills are just kind of baked into the cake of what kids experience every day in their classrooms. But also it's taking intentional steps beyond that to make sure that kids are gaining exposure to the importance of those skills. And that takes place in a variety of ways. It takes place in monthly classroom meetings. It takes place in our homeroom curriculum. Takes place in our freshman seminar class, which is new this year, just making sure that when freshmen come into the building, there's a class that's designed for them, that a lot of those important skills, they're getting saturated with that from the teachers that are teaching that. The way I see it a lot too is it comes through our office, just in the nature of student discipline, and student discipline not being it's not us getting back at kids, it's us getting kids back to a place where they can be successful. And the nature of those conversations with kids is, how can we communicate you to think through your decisions in a more critical way, so that you can move forward with greater integrity. And it doesn't always land as kumbaya, as maybe I'm making that sound, but But that is the goal as we try to get kids to, in all these different areas, just to develop those skills that are needed for success in the building and needed for success beyond. So, yeah.
So ultimately, we're looking to get them focused on that picture and where they want to get to individually, trying to provide the systems and the support and the processes to make school go well, comprehensively. But that graduation goal, it sounds so big, right? But some of these things we're talking about specifically will help kids get there in a way that's meaningful to them. So open for any questions you might have.
And talking, do you have one?
Oh, you
And talking about attendance and the systems and the structures and stuff that you're putting in place and using that time with your staff, have you found any ahas already? I mean, it's only first month in, and you said you're doing step number 2 this month. Anything that kind of stood out that you're like, oh, that's something we can implement?
I think we focus a lot. It's a good question. I'm going to come from 2 different ways. From the tier 2, we've been very intentional that we're pulling reports every 2 weeks so we know who our, I'll say high flyers are with attendance. And then we're using other warning signs to say this kid needs to be in front of us in some way, shape, or form. So an example would be, today we had a data study team this morning, and we pulled attendance, and we had a list of about 10 names that are flagging us from high attendance needs, academics, and maybe behaviors. Those are 3 warning signs that we know we have to get them connected to adult. So now we have built an intentional pathway to say this group of students is going to go here, here, or here. What best fits their needs and why? So that's something that we didn't have as prescriptive in the past from the whole. So that's really at a tier 2 level. And we do that every 2 weeks to say who needs what now? And can they graduate out of this support, or no, do they need to go into something more supportive? From an 80%, from a whole, it was a lot of discussion about what can we control? Because it's easy to say that kid, that person, that situation, and we are talking about what are the things that we can control. Our lesson design, our instructional practices, our engagement, even so much as to say just the slowdown to start our fast-paced busyness of what education looks like. What does it look like to just sit in front of a student and say, let's pause for a minute and welcome you to the classroom and make sure that every kid feels connected? And so I think some of those strategies, again, we talked instructional, technology, and then mindfulness, like those 3. So I don't have a great aha, but I'll be curious to see what tomorrow, Wednesday, brings.
Casey,
Just had a question.
did you have a question?
Jamie, you actually answered the question that I was going to ask about the tracking, so
Be
I
that good
guess,
for you, Casey.
yeah, I guess I'll do my second part, which is the compliment on all the hard work that you guys are doing at the high school, to middle school, elementary school. It is really appreciated by the board, by the community, so just take a moment to recognize all the work that you're doing with everyone, so. Yep.
I have a question for Mr. Reeves. We heard some really wonderful stories, I think, last meeting about how everybody pitched in to get you guys moved in and comfortable in your new space, and how is that going?
It's going well. You know, it's one of those things where we're navigating the unknown. You know, I'm really thankful that space was allocated into the high school, and Matt and Lori were so pivotal in that. That is meaningful to our kids. It's intentional. It kind of helps shrink the building for them. And what we're learning, you know, I think we hit the ground in a way that established the conditions for the main tenets of alternative programming to exist. And I feel great about that, but it's just keeping an ongoing pulse in terms of what our staff and our students are experiencing so that we can make adjustments for try two. And there's adjustments that we need to make. And, but just, yeah, overall, just thankful for the attitude of the kids, thankful for the attitude of our staff, and yeah, we're growing and we're going. So, yeah, thanks.
Is it too early to ask in October how the 6 periods is working? That was a big change for the high school.
Big change for the high
So
school.
are you willing to give us any insights on that?
You know, I'll tell you what the feedback we hear, and then I would pose it to what Cohen and AT would say. And I say this very holistically, we've heard nothing but positives.
Oh, good.
So the best summary I can say is no one should go through a schedule change in the 6 months that we did, but the reality is we had to roll up our sleeves and we had to get there in very short order, and it maybe served us better because we didn't have a lot of time for extra
Thinking about it?
actions, and the staff have been tremendous. They've been responsive. They've been just willing to roll up their sleeves and dive into what a 3x6 looks like. And we threw a lot of new, because when you talk about a schedule, we talk about bringing in programming, we talk about new policies and procedures. We really had a lot of work that we just rolled out on the first day of school, and our staff have been nothing but outstanding, and I think appreciative of what it looks like when the rubber meets the road with this. And I think from the school day, from student standpoint, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but everyone feels like everything did this. That it's a slower start in the morning, a little bit longer classes, and only 6 of them. It doesn't have that hurried sense and almost hurried sense that we have had in the past. And so I think it feels a little bit more effective. Am I off?
And that's the data we got in our last PD with, we got some formal feedback from our staff just to kind of rate their start to the school year, anything from cell phones to the schedule to the PD and whatnot, and it was all positive, very, very appreciated. So, but yeah, curious if you guys have a thought, just going from a 6-period day, 7 to a 6, and feel anything different?
Just like the day, she said, it slows down a little bit. I mean, I don't feel rushed through my day. I like the idea of getting an extra hour of sleep if I need to for a test that's right away in the morning. I've already had that happen this year, and it's been really helpful, so pretty grateful for it.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely gives us time to like collect ourselves throughout the day, as well as in the morning, just giving us that space we need to like get ready prior to school, and like in this instance said, it just slows the day down overall. Sometimes we go throughout the day and I'm like, really, it's already, and it just gives us a lot of time to pay attention to our work and not have to like think and worry about so much. So it was a great change.
I think one point that we will be curious and watch for is that in a semester model, you get to a quarter, and then you kind of know the pacing of a semester. Our students don't know the pacing of a trimester schedule yet. So this week we're at about mid-tri. I don't think that is dawning on them yet to recognize we are mid-November and we're done with the tri and we're switching. So I think that pacing is going to catch them off guard a little bit. So we're looking at ways as how do we get them to understand, like, you're halfway there. And so it's been very easy or different for them in the past because we wouldn't be having this conversation until mid-January. Well, we're switching here in 4 or 5 weeks. And so that will, I think, catch some kids off guard if they're not prepared for the different pace.
Well, we know, with the school start time changes and the change to trimesters and the change to 6 periods, I mean, the high school really had a lot on their plate to prepare for this year. We're really aware of how hard you guys had to work to put that in place. So appreciate you giving us some early informal feedback, and we're hopeful that we'll get some more feedback as the semester or as the school year goes along so that we can interpret all of these changes and see if we headed in the right direction. The other thing I wanted to just mention is, as a board, we've worked really hard over the last year and a half, roughly, to develop our strategic plan and our strategic goals. We're trying to align them all the way across the district, both at the elementary level, middle school, and high school, and our superintendent goals as well. And so what we hear in these updates is we're succeeding in aligning our goals. And so that's something, I don't think we've ever been there as a district before. So academic performance, school safety, and attendance have been our 3 biggest ones that we've prioritized. And to hear that feedback consistently from each building across the district is very encouraging. I'll just, make that statement for myself, but I think on behalf of the board, what we do sometimes is very esoteric, and you wonder, is it just a slogan on the wall, or are you really living the plan that you're trying to implement? And so thank you for your feedback, and the elementary folks that came last time as well, and the middle school folks. It sounds like we're headed in the right direction. We're all on the same team, singing from the same music, so to speak. So I appreciate that so much. Thank you.
And I'd just like to jump in and, when you talk strategies, when you were talking about attendance, I remember walking through the high school last year, and you're wondering if the work that we're doing at the district level is working or is it connecting, and all of a sudden you walk by the TV monitor and you see just a beautiful, inspiring, communication about attendance and how it's connected to the importance of not only the now, but the future. And I know that if in our family communication recently, I got to celebrate our ALP, but in the month of September, they had 90% attendance, and that's almost double of any time in 7 years since I've been here, and so that was incredible. I did get to go meet with the class today. And it doesn't have to be food, it's great to celebrate people, and just pausing today to celebrate the staff and the students that achieved that in September and brought them a couple dozen donuts. But we can do it different ways, but those are strategies of alignment that we need to see in plans so that they continue to move forward. It can't be something that stays static on a wall. And that's why everything is connected, and it's so connected. And just hearing our administrators start to talk about the connectivity and then seeing our board recognize that is, I could almost cry, because that's what we've been trying to work on. And I remember pushback from administrators wondering, how is that connected? It seems too much. And now to see some of the language being used and known deeply, and it might be even a couple standing up here, but that connectivity of what we're doing, there are no one-offs anymore. There are no shiny blue objects that we're chasing. We're chasing the dream of true collective efficacy, of pulling everything together for a board to know it, for students to be able to talk about it, for staff to be able to talk about it, and that's how we can still get it to keep going further, is our staff need to be able to articulate just as well as our principals. Our students need to be able to articulate. We got work to do, but we are on a map to do that, on a journey. So it's awesome.
Yeah, thank
Both
you.
presentations
It's
today.
very encouraging
Nailed it.
to hear also that things that, like, we used to think about reading and literacy as an elementary school skill, and to hear that now embraced at the middle school and the high school, that it's a lifelong learning. You become better readers and better, that's something that doesn't end and then you just go to middle school or high school, and that's very encouraging, because we know that skill is so important over a lifetime for outcomes and success. So thank you to all the principals for putting together the dog and pony shows for the board. I know that's probably not the favorite thing you have to do, but
they love it.
we do appreciate it. And so thank you, all of you.
Elementary's up in, not next meeting, but the first meeting in November.
And so now we're going to switch gears to.
Oh, wait. You can't clap for one and not the other. Come on, principals.
Sorry about that. Oh, who led the clap down there? Now we're going to switch gears a little bit, and we're going to hear from our new Nutrition Services Director, Laura Wecker-Hansen, and Director of Business Services, Tina Burkholder, with a Nutrition Services update. This is very exciting. We're excited to hear about all the more changes that we've implemented this year. So
Yeah.
welcome, Laura.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Excited to let you know what we've been doing. So I wanted to start the presentation by just saying that I cannot say enough about the amazing nutrition services staff in this district. The transition from from contract management to self-operated is difficult, and they have weathered it with positivity, excitement, determination, strength, and they've been able to do that because their focus is feeding our kids. Every day we get up, did the delivery come late? Is the freezer broken? Feed the kids. Reminding ourselves that by nourishing our students' bodies, we fuel their minds is what has gotten us through these first few weeks of school. And we continue to work hard every day to build our new program. So when I say new, I literally mean new. Pretty much our staff is the only thing that's the same, our staff and our physical kitchens. We have all new vendors. We have all new ordering systems. Our head cooks are having to navigate those ordering systems. A lot of the ordering was previously done by the contract management company. They've taken that on. We have new delivery days, new delivery times. We have all new recipes. We have all new menu products and ingredients. We have new schedules for our meal times and for our staff. We have a new online menu system, so the way that our staff and our students and our community view the meals. And we have a brand new nutrient software database that started literally blank, and on July 1st, we started filling that with literally ingredients. So it's been a big year of new for us. Speaking of new things, some new favorite menu items. All of the pictures in this presentation are pictures from our school cafeterias. So these are all pictures I have taken during mealtime. So some of the favorites so far, just a month in, are our mandarin orange chicken with our homemade fried rice and steamed edamame. Our chicken and waffles meal, which is a crispy breaded drumstick with maple chip whole grain waffles and baked beans. At the high school, we serve this with a spicy maple mayo dipping sauce. Our 4-cheese tortellini, which is a whole grain tortellini with Alfredo sauce, garlic toast, and green beans. Our students really like this. I have a feeling this is probably what our student from Italy is a little horrified by with our food, but most of our students like our very Midwestern pasta meals. And then our Raising Monty's chicken is very popular at the high school. This is our whole muscle chicken tenders with our whole grain garlic knot and our magic sauce to go with it, and that is served with baked French fries. Some updated options for our students. So particularly our entree options at all levels. We do have our Uncrustable peanut butter and jelly sandwich. At the middle school, some of the changes that have happened, we have a double Main Street dish line on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. This has taken our everyday options down from 4 to 5, which just helps with line flow, and it helps with that transition from the elementary school where they have fewer options, kind of middle ground for the middle school, and then more to the high school. It just helps them be a little less overwhelmed during mealtime. And then on Wednesdays, we're doing a build your own sub bar at the middle school. And then we do have sub sandwiches and entree salads available every day. At the high school, we have added every day we have a build your own sub sandwich line. So if students don't like one of the other 6 options they have, they can always build a sub, just like at Subway or their favorite sandwich shop. We have a rotating Build It bar line. So I know previously there was nachos every day on that line, and we actually rotate this on a weekly basis. So we have a weekly special pasta bar, nacho bar, walking taco bar. So something that's consistent but keeps it fresh for the students. And then entree salads and bento boxes to go daily in our grab and go area. And then fruits and vegetables, all of our students who have chosen to eat a school lunch, so if they got a school lunch, they are able to return to the serving line for additional unlimited fruits and vegetables. So if a student is still hungry, they're able to come back and get additional fruits and vegetables. There's a picture of one of our lovely fruit and vegetable bars up there. So I mentioned Uncrustables. I just wanted to talk a little bit about this addition to the cafeteria. One of the things that, and talk a little bit about how this was communicated and why we've done this. We are still a Nut Aware program. That has not changed. This is not a policy change for us. We still have no nuts or peanuts that are prepared in our kitchens and no risk of cross-contamination. Our Uncrustable sandwiches come fully sealed, stay sealed, and are not opened until our students are sitting in the cafeteria at their designated table. And each of our buildings has their own protocol for how they keep students safe in their individual cafeterias, just because each cafeteria and each student body looks a little bit different. Communication, so this infographic up here is one of the pieces that we've used to communicate this with parents and the community. This was sent out in one of our superintendent newsletters. It's on our website. We also have information about this change and about allergens on our online menu system and app and the nutrition services webpage. So one of the most exciting things for me is that our participation is up district-wide for lunch already just after this one month here. So this is lunch participation at each of our schools compared to September of last year. Particularly Eastview is up 5%, Pinewood and Nature-Based at 4.28%. And at our high schools and middle schools, anything above a 1% growth with the number of students who attend those schools huge. So we're off to a really, really good start. Just some of the very cursory feedback from students that I get from walking the cafeteria, engaging with them while they're eating, or that they're liking the quality of the menu items, they're liking our portion sizes, the variety of offerings, and then the alternative menu options. A lot of our youngest learners really love that peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It's been very popular. So looking ahead, what we're wanting to do over the next few months and this year, one of the big things for me is assessing our equipment needs in our kitchens and addressing our immediate needs. We have some old equipment, things that need to be looked at, doing some preventative maintenance, and then long-term planning to support program growth. So what type of equipment upgrades or changes do we need to do be able to do some more scratch cooking, or change the way that a line looks, or support more local fruits and vegetables? Do we need additional washing stations? Just that kind of broad view while we plan for the next few years over what we need equipment-wise to support where we want our program to go. And then also creating a more sustainable meal delivery program for the co-op program at the Workforce Center and nature-based. We're getting the meals out there, they like them, but there's definitely improvements that can be made to that process that makes it a little bit more of a quality experience for our students in those buildings, and also like a physically sustainable job for our staff who are doing it. It's a lot of hard work and lifting right now, so we're looking at that. And then menu and recipe development, the use of our participation data and student feedback to make sure that we are changing our menus, updating our recipes, that we're reflecting what our student body looks like and what we're serving, developing partnerships with local vendors, and then increasing our student and community involvement in our menu planning process. We do have a nutrition services Instagram. We just started this a few weeks ago. If you have Instagram, I encourage you to follow us. We post lots of pretty pictures of our food, and it's a great way to just share what lunch is looking like, and make sure that we're kind of controlling our own narrative with what our food looks like, because at the end of the day, most kids go home and will say it's gross no matter how good it was, because school lunch isn't cool. But if you follow our Instagram, it's pretty cool, in my opinion. So that's it.
My daughter thinks it's great.
I'm so glad.
Questions or discussion? Can you talk about the breakfast options? You talked a lot about the lunch.
Yeah, so
What sorts of things are you offering?
yeah, our breakfast program, we really streamlined this year. I know that in previous years, based on what our staff was telling us, it was lots of like, here's a lot of cold options, build your own. We're focusing on like a one hot option, one cold option. We do a lot of things like breakfast pizza, bagel pizza, waffles, savory options, some egg options, and then whole grain cereals, whole grain kind of grab and go options. Especially at the beginning of the school year, I like to keep it really simple because breakfast happens before learning happens and it's not scheduled into the day. I like to make it something that it's easy for the students to participate in, and then as they get used to going through their day over the next few months, we'll make it a little more exciting, add a few more options so that it's a little less overwhelming at the beginning of the day. But they've got their fruit, their grain, hot option, cold option every day. So.
Discussion from this?
You showed a stat there of the increase from September 24th to 23 to 24.
Mm-hmm.
It's lunch, right?
That was just lunch, yeah. Breakfast is, it did not go down, it sustained, which is pretty normal for September year to year, again, because breakfast, just when they eat that during the day, a lot of kids are worried about getting to class or worried about what their friends are doing, and they haven't really built in that stop in the breakfast in the cafeteria right away. So numbers were steady. We didn't see a drop over last year, but I'll be digging a little bit more into that data in October and November when the kids have established their patterns a little more.
Any other discussion? Well, thank you. You had a big job going from contract to self-manage, and that was amazing that you got it all put together so quickly. The pictures really look wonderful. I think they're, Instagrammable. So they look, exciting and tempting for your appetite and all that. What do you guys think? Enjoying the lunches? What's your favorite? What's your favorite?
Oftentimes we get pizza. Other than that, I like to eat chicken tenders.
Chicken tenders. Oh, look at that.
Favorite. We're switching to 2 lines of chicken tenders next week because the line was so long. So they like chicken tender Thursdays. It's a good day to visit the high school cafeteria if you're looking to.
Very good. Okay, well, thank you so much. Tina, do you have?
I was just here to support Laura. I think she underplays how much hard work she spent in July and August to get this up and running. I know it was a lot of hard work, and she did awesome at it, and she still has goals to make it better. We are working on, we worked together on our wellness committee, and I didn't want to have her worry about that as she started school, but as we get into the school year and we get into having a wellness committee, how do we attract more members, whether it's students or parents? So if there's people out there watching or listening, we are looking for some public community members for our wellness committee too.
Very good. So later on, maybe as the year progresses, you can give us some feedback about where we're at financially with the new meal program compared to where the old system.
We can try.
It might be a little challenging this first year.
Yep.
So appreciate that. All right, any other questions for our food service?
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So let's see, so the high school went from, what, quarters to tri-semesters?
Yep.
We just decided to start a whole nother service. Maybe we should have a year where we just kind of go, try to do 8
No changes.
Just saying, I don't know. You know,
Oh, and then we had the start times and
Don't look at me.
this transportation.
schedule, what else can we try to do in 1 year? Hegle for president. Don't want anything to do with that.
Some of these have been in the works
I
for
know.
decades, and we just are the strong ones that are able to put them on our backs.
Actually, what's impressive is
ALP in 2 days. And
how everybody just rises up and is like, oh, okay, we just got to get it done. So, that can-do attitude. So I love that. So it's for the kids. And, I mean, these are all wonderful projects that we're working towards. Better food. I mean, what kid is not going to want better food at school, So
Highlight of my
highlight
day when I get a good meal. Absolutely.
Yeah, we do appreciate all the hard work and the last minute and the we've got to scramble to get this, make it work. And, so we're can-do folks, and we're glad to work with other can-do folks. So moving on now, we're going to have first reading of policies. There's an impressive list of policies there. Rob Daniker's not with us this evening, but Superintendent Olson is going to step in for him and talk about these policies. And it's just first reading this evening.
All right, so I will bring forward Policy 506, Student Discipline, and just a high-level overview. This one incorporated a lot of the changes that were wrapped around in the last legislative session. HR Director Daniker did bring these forward to our principals, worked with them at a recent meeting just to get their feedback and make sure that they have strategies of making sure that they are able to meet the definition of this policy. Policy 102, the equal opportunity, equal educational opportunity. And this is just making sure that as a district, that we provide equal opportunity for all the students in our school district. There weren't a lot of changes to this one. And so we bring forward this one as one that we were able to get through relatively quickly. Next up is Policy 104, School District Mission Statement, and we had brought this forward recently, able to embed our strategic logo so that it's a part of what we do and not just something that sits on the shelf. So this is something that had already been refreshed recently, so there weren't a lot of changes as well. School board meeting minutes, Policy 204. The big thing about the school board meeting minutes is that you do have to, this is one of those ones that you do have to retain for forever, just to have on file. Policy 205, open meetings and closed meetings. And then this one is just looking at the when you can have closed meetings, and then also describing the common open meetings that we are subject to. So both for policies, policy and budget subcommittee meetings, and then also for your regular board meetings. But then also describing in detail when you can close meetings. Once again, not a lot of changes. Public hearings, policy 207. This one is the recognition of making sure that we have policy in place to handle very specific public hearings. And so we did not have this policy before, but when you really look at the general statement of the policy and the procedures, it's really for if you were going to close a school, which Minnesota statute guides you, education district establishment, and then agreements for secondary education. We were a little surprised by that one. So the articulation agreements that you might have with secondary, post-secondary schools. But I think the thing that we got going for us as a district is that we have those articulation agreements already, and I think we're serving our students really well with the post-secondary options. But there could be a public hearing if maybe we weren't doing that. So we feel good about this policy and the intentions of those three things that you can come to the board with, and then the discretion, there is discretion of the school board to also be able to come forward with a topic. That you could bring a topic of operating levy and really do some communication at a board level about that. You could and have a transparent public hearing. So there's some other things, and I think that's why that discretion is there. All right. Policy 2.8, development, adoption, and implementation of policies, but this just guides the school board on how to maintain, well, first of all, adopt and implement, but then maintain your policies and making sure that you uphold the chronological review that's needed for each policy. Code of Ethics, Policy 209. This one just describes for a school board member and understanding their part of the school board and recognizing the contribution that each member must make to develop an effective and responsible school board. So it just gives guidelines. I'd call it, like more of that, exactly it's titled Code of Ethics. A lot of us in our profession have those Code of Ethics to drive the things that we should be doing, and this policy does a good job of that. Moving on to policy 210, conflict of interest. Just making sure that we have guidelines to determine a school board and the relationship that the school board encounters throughout the course of the year for all its actions and dealings. And so this policy guides the business activities in a fashion designed to avoid any conflict of interest or the appearance of impropriety. And then criminal or civil action against school district, school board member, employee, or student. This was one that, you look at this one and obviously the name in itself really drives us to our legal counsel, and our legal counsel helps us maintain this as a school district with all the protections that legal counsel will guide us through anything that would come our way under this policy. That's policy 211. And policy 212, school board member development. We did make a change to this one. The school board has really, I would say, reinvigorated the training that you guys do and set the standards high for continuation of those. And so as you see, if you want to pull this one up, this one was a little bit, I wanted to showcase just because I think it highlights who we are as a board, and I'm really proud of the board. But this one right here, the MSBA had removed the section in red, but this policy committee believes that it's important to maintain high standards when it comes to learning. If we're a learning institution, they're going to learn right along with us. kind of to Jeff's comments that our people out there in the audience have worked hard, so have the people behind this table. So I think that one just gives some year parameters of how quickly to get those phases of learning done. The MSBA training, Minnesota School Board Association offers those training, and this board policy committee has brought forth a schedule to complete those trainings. All right, out-of-state travel by school board members, policy 214. While it doesn't happen very often, we all in the end agreed that it is good to have some governance in case it does happen. There could be recognition, honors for the school board at some point. There could be a trip to a school district outside the state. I know when I visited Alexandria with the high school principals, I know that they visited a South Dakota school to look at their career technical programming. So it would be very common for a board member to be on that bus trip if you were taking community members to go to visit. And some of those trips, when you're going to 2 and 3 different areas, and if they're out of state, there definitely could be out of state travel by a board member in that case. Policy 413, harassment and violence, obviously a very important policy to bring forward, but just really connects Minnesota statute and law to guide and maintain a learning and working environment free from harassment and violence on the basis of race, color, creed, religion, national origin, sex, age, marital status, familial status with regard to public assistance, sexual orientation, or disability, any protected class. So a policy that is important to guide a healthy environment. And then, those are our policies that I'm bringing forward, and they are just at first reading right now. Are there any questions?
I just want to say we didn't rush these through just because Rob is out sick. A lot of these are pretty short and a lot of statute-based ones, so.
Yeah, we don't really have the freedom to deviate in the language on a lot of these. So I also wanted to bring up, for those that may not be familiar with how school board policies work, we have what we call the 100s, the 200s, the 300s, the 400s, and so forth, up to the 900s. And each of those sections has to do with a different area of school governance. And so Rob and Devaney have broken down a new policy review process for us for the next couple of years. This year, we're going to be reviewing the 200s, the 500s, and the 800s, and then we're going to start with the 3s, the 6s, and the 9s next year. So that just there is a plan, a method to the madness, so to speak, for how we recall these policies and how we address them. So that's just a little informational knowledge back there on that.
Because they have to be touched every 3 years.
They have to be touched every 3 years, and we prior to this board, they languished in some areas, and so we've caught up. And again, we've been working just as hard, we hope, as some of you folks have as well. So we're trying to get our house in order as well. So I'm proud of the work that we've done on the policy committee, and especially in the last year and a half or so. We've really made a lot of progress with that.
I'm very happy that Chair Ziebarth recognized Rob and Devaney, because the policy is not my favorite. I'm probably not as organized as I should be to handle something like policy, and there may have been some conversation at the policy level to discuss that. But my humility knows that I recognize that in myself, and I've moved on to really appreciate the work that those two have done. And it did this tonight, once I found out that he wasn't going to be here, it just put me through that, my competitive lens, going back to some words of those policy meetings. I did spend several hours in preparation to make sure that I could showcase that I have been learning and growing.
Policy is a very data-intensive, word-intensive, wordsmithing process. So it's always tedious to get through, and we're kind of proud of, we've hit our stride, I think, finally, as a group. So no action on those policies. We will be bringing those 13 policies forward in 2 weeks on the 21st of October for second read. So if there's any questions or comments, please direct them to Robin Devaney first and see if you can get an answer to your questions there, board members. So moving on to item B, we've had a bunch of discussion over the last year or so over whether we should continue our current parking pass situation at the high school or whether we should change that process. And I'm going to let Superintendent Olson preface the discussion.
Obviously, like Chair Ziebarth has mentioned, there has been a lot of discussion on this this procedure that we have had in place for many years. So I would just say the summary of the current Monticello High School parking lot fee process is that all students parking at the Monticello High School are required to have a parking permit. To be eligible to purchase and pick up a parking pass, students must have no outstanding fees, a valid driver's license, and the online parking permit registration form completed. The $100 parking fee can be paid through the Infinite Campus Parent or Student Portal under the School Store tab. Once registration and payment are completed, students can pick up their parking passes in the high school main office. That's how we were operating, and through discussion and a lot of work from both administration and school board, there is a recommendation that we bring forth tonight. And so how this works is there is a recommendation that I'll describe here a little bit further, and you'll have an opportunity, since this is a recommendation, there is action required at the end of tonight. And if you choose the process that is being presented and voted on it, if it passed, this would be the new work that we would be gearing up for school year 2025-26.
Not this year.
Yep. And then if it doesn't pass, and it would have to pass by a 4-2 vote, if it doesn't pass, then it moves, it stays the same as it is for the time being. So that's how something like this operates. And so the recommendation tonight is implementing a parking fee reimbursement process for students who demonstrate the following: 90% daily attendance rate or better, less than 6 tardies per trimester, or 18 or fewer for the total year, no chemical violations, responsible use of the parking lot defined as 0 infractions, which I mean we strive towards that now as well. So under this proposed program, students who would meet the goals above at the end of the year would be eligible for a full reimbursement of their annual $100 parking fee. At the end of the school year, students who meet the reimbursement requirements must complete the reimbursement form to claim the reimbursement. And then we've also, between administration and school board, thought of there could be those incidents where we need to make some accommodations. And so there is an accommodation form for students who have ongoing medical conditions or health concerns that may affect their ability to meet the attendance requirement. A form is available, or would be available, for completion. It's linked here for your review below. The form, along with the doctor's note, may excuse a student from the 90% attendance threshold. The form must be submitted to the health office at the onset of the health condition or medical treatment. So we feel like we've listened, brought forward an alternative solution, and it's in the hands of, I'll hand this over to Chair Ziebarth to use Robert's rules to guide us through the process here.
So I'd like to open, is there any discussion from the board members from what we've heard tonight before we move to an action vote?
Is there a deadline to submit the reimbursement request form?
I mean, I think those, I would, say that, I can't remember, I'd have to look here on it, but, I don't think it would go past a summer month, at least, but you wouldn't let it go a year and then be able to reimburse. So we'd want to keep it tight and have a window. Usually the summer months are the ones that we would want to do this type of work, when more people, when we don't have kids. Is it June? Oh, thank you for opening it, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think accounting-wise, you'd want it as soon as possible.
Yeah, thanks for opening it. I forgot that.
June 15th, so a couple weeks, right?
Yeah.
And just to clarify too, this would not affect this school year of 2024, 2025. We're already into the school year, so this would be 2025, 2026, and subsequent. Any further discussion or questions from board?
Can we ask if Matt and Lori have any strong feelings or input that they'd like to comment on this?
Can you come up to the podium? Can you come to the microphone, please? No?
Devaney, you are.
Oh, Devaney, you're
amazing.
awesome.
Just, do you have anything to add or any input on it?
I would just say in our current process, we have not had one piece of feedback that tells us differently that our current process is not working well.
I agree. I like what we're doing.
Further discussion from the board? So board members, we have a suggested school board action to implement a new system for a parking fee reimbursement program for students who maintain a 90% or higher attendance rate and have no parking violations. Eligible students would receive a full reimbursement of their $100 annual parking fee at the end of the school year. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Casey Root. All those in favor of implementing the new system, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no.
No.
No. Let's go to a voice vote, please. Casey Root,
Aye.
Melissa Curtis,
No.
Kathy Ziebarth, no. Jeff Hegle, Jamie Sieben,
No.
Mark
Branson.
Branson.
I'm out.
Aye.
3 ayes and 3 nays. Did I count those correctly? Under Robert's rules, the motion fails with a tie vote, and so we will retain the current system. Moving on to item 10, we are now completed with our agenda for the evening, and at 6:26, we will move into adjournment. We're going to have a work session to follow. Let's take a 10-minute break for bathroom, et cetera, and then reconvene for the work session. Thank you. We're in adjournment.